Okay.
Mollie, take 5.
Okay.
Let's just get the last out.
Okay, let's go. Okay. My name is Mollie Alpaugh, and this is my just let me keep going. Okay, so The Great Gatsby was written by F. Scott Fitzgerald. It was published in 1925, and it was published in a time when women had just recently gained the right to vote, and so they were still struggling to gain the social and economic privileges that men had already had for hundreds of years, and they were really just trying to even the playing field. Okay. Even the playing field. And so The Great Gatsby in general just showcases so many examples of sexism, even though the story wasn't even trying. A major theme definitely isn't sexism, but the book just the author somehow just ended up incorporating it, and so it's interesting to see all that in there. So my questions are, who is the most sexist character?
Tom.
It was Tom.
I think we all agree.
It's Tom because
The way he treated women was super
Daisy
objectifying.
and Myrtle, he just sort of uses them for his own benefit, and you can tell he has this really big sense of male entitlement. He's I can just have whatever I want and kind of do whatever I want, and it's also such a double standard because he's so upset when he finds out that Daisy's cheating on him, even though he's been cheating on her for so long and thinks he should just accept it.
Plus what we talked about in class when he gave Myrtle the leash, we were kind of saying how it was kind of how he was treating Myrtle as a pet. Which is horrible. But it's kind of him treating her like an object or an animal, and that's just not.
Yeah. Okay, so my...
Wait. Also, the fact that when Tom hit Myrtle and it should be a big deal, but in the book it just kind of wasn't. People, they reacted, but there wasn't any big consequence for Tom for doing that.
I'm also gonna touch on. Sorry.
Before you get go on.
if he had... Okay.
It's more we were talking about Tom is Daisy's husband rather than Daisy being Tom's wife. It was kind of Daisy was the main character who had a husband versus before in the olden times it'd be more Daisy she's Tom's wife, Tom is the leader of the house, whereas Daisy really took on a role that
Yeah, and that made me think of, there's one part in the book, I have no idea what the actual quote is, but it's saying how the Tom Buchanans are going somewhere, and it wasn't just the Buchanans are going somewhere, they just had to throw in there that Tom is the husband.
Yeah, how you'd say Mrs. Tom Buchanan,
Yeah.
Mrs. Daisy. It
Also-
never made sense to me.
Also, in the part where he hits Myrtle, he says something about doesn't he say women need to learn
Yeah,
how to
yeah,
take
take
a
it to the
punch
nose.
or something?
Yeah, it's
Oh yeah, we're also talking about how Tom is definitely that one character where he's supposed to be, or I don't know if he's supposed to, but he definitely acts as that character who's the contrast to everybody's mindsets that are changing during his time era, and he's definitely still stuck in the past with racism and sexism, and he definitely thinks that men should be more powerful than women and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay, good. So my second question is, how are women generally perceived in Great Gatsby?
Something we had talked about was them being ditzy. Lily, what were you saying about that?
Oh yeah, I think Daisy is overall portrayed as being kind of ditzy. She's just this really beautiful, charming girl who's kind of emotional and stuff, but there wasn't a lot of substance to her, I felt. And Paige, what were you saying about what she said?
about being a beautiful.
Oh yeah. So she said that like the best thing a girl can be in this world is a beautiful little fool, and like the fact that like she said she like is aware, she's aware that like to survive in that like society as a woman you have to be stupid and you have to be like careless, like,
And like
how,
beautiful.
Yeah,
How much
beautiful.
ignorance is bliss.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
also, didn't she cry when she learned she was having a daughter?
Yeah, because
Like, probably just from like the way she had grown up and the way she knew that women were
She knew.
treated.
Yeah.
She knew that, like,
was like not
Yeah,
gonna be.
that's all she
equal.
would grow up to ever be is like a fool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
And I think women were definitely like first impression of women. Well, I guess okay. Like women were always seen as like they, like she was saying, it's like beautiful little fools. Like all people really cared about with women was like their looks. And whenever Nick would be describing a woman, it was always like how she looked and how like her body language like came off. But it was never about like their personalities. And I guess throughout the book they then like showed their personalities, which didn't really match like their outside appearance necessarily.
Another thing is how they have to conform. Like, Daisy wanted to marry Gatsby, but like the only good thing about their relationship was that they loved each other, but like Tom worked out because like he was rich and his parents approved. And so like instead of being able to be happy, like she kind of just had to conform to everyone else around her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, also, it was like on her wedding night, like she started to cry, like she didn't want to marry him, but her friends were kind of like pushing her down the aisle, and they were like, no, like you need to marry him, and it was kind of like she just didn't have any rights, like she didn't want to marry him, but she still had to, probably because they were like, oh, he has money, he's like best suited for you, like you're coming from a rich
And weren't
family.
they saying like no one can talk about it, like how she had the breakdown?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like they probably wanted to be like really high status, like they're seeing her as just like only for like her money really, like and her beauty and not
I also feel like the expectation of like women that was like placed upon them, like kind of got to her head, especially in that situation where like she had the breakdown, but then she ended up getting married to him, and then she felt like she had to be happy in that marriage, and then it kind of like flipped, where like she was obsessed with him and like was always concerned about his whereabouts. So I feel like it kind of got to her head that she like should be married to him and like should be happy with it.
Yeah. Also, I feel like with Jordan, like when like Nick talks about her, he often just talks about like how like pretty or mysterious she is, and like he says like whenever I think of her, like I think of this like incident where she like cheated in a golf tournament or whatever, instead of like really talking about like her achievements or about like how she's like really talented or how she like deserves to be like a professional athlete. Like it's more just talking about like her looks and how she like cheated like to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And also though, even in the movie, you kind of could just tell like Myrtle like was just supposed to be like being someone who was like super curvy, and like she wasn't like a very nice person, and same with Daisy, like the way she was portrayed in the movie too, like she was supposed to just be like some like beautiful angel that everyone was like, wow, she's like the most beautiful person ever, but like they never achieved anything really. They were kind of just like housewives that just sat around and
Myrtle was like basically like a sex toy to Tom, and like she like liked it.
Yeah,
the
fact that they like
really badly.
the fact that they were like accepting of it too.
Yeah, I feel like Tom like definitely had like control over them, and like they were portrayed as like very submissive in a lot of ways.
They thought that's like how it was probably supposed to be.
Yeah. So, what is something you guys took away from this? Anything you learned new?
Well, I think I really took away the how everybody's mindsets were starting to change in the 20s, kind of like the historical aspect of it. Like before, women were really not supposed. Women were really supposed to not have an opinion on anything, and they really weren't supposed to like have a say or like do anything besides like look pretty and like clean the house. And I feel like the 20s is when it really started to change, and I feel like that's shown in this book. But it's like the contrast is also
Yeah.
there.
And I learned that even though the book wasn't really about sexism and like gender roles, that it's like interesting that